everybody back to Holistic Buffet. It's so nice to see all of you again. We look a little different. We're in a different setting because for the first time since the launch of Holistic Buffet, Steve and I are able to record together.
Yay! It's been such a fun few days. We met a couple of days ago in London and we just had the most fabulous time, haven't we?
We have done so many fun things. We have seen the River Thames. We have been to Camden, which is a really fun, quirky little place to shop for trinkets and treasures. We've had some amazing meals, and it has been so wonderful. And being able to record it together in person has just been great.
So, Carrie, I've wanted to do this episode for a long time.
I know you have, and I kept pushing it down on the list because the thought of doing it made me feel scared and a little bit of resistance. And so finally now we are going to lean into a topic that makes me feel uncomfortable, makes me feel out of my box. And Steve, why don't you tell everybody what we'll be talking about on this episode?
Well, we're going to talk about improvisation, and for a few reasons. One, it's a great communication tool in life. Two, it's really fun. And three, some of the sort of tenets, some of the building blocks of improv and doing improv comedy or improv drama are real life lessons, are real sort of tenets of how we could possibly live our life differently. And for me, when I first got into improv, which was when I was like 18, wasn't really cognizant of that, and it's only recently, the last few years, I've gone, actually, all that stuff I've done in the past on improv really informs my kind of outlook and philosophy towards life.
Right.
And certainly in the last 12 months, at least anyway, since what we've gone through, I've really reconnected with some of those notions and ideas around the principles of improv and how it can apply to me and my attitude and my place in the world. So it's an absolutely fascinating subject that I think has multiple applications, not just in, we don't want to turn ourselves into improv comedy performers, but some of those life lessons are so invaluable.
Right. And so for me, because we are recording this now after we have actually gone through the episode, I would like to just give you a few of my thoughts. I always believed when I heard the word improv that really just applied to artistic and creative people who were actors or comedians who got up on stage and did improv. And so for me, improv wasn't something that I ever thought was important because it's not in my wheelhouse and it's not something that I do. So a few of the things that I have learned is that if you have a couple of the basic tenets of improv, as we're walking you through these exercises and you are watching me do it for the very first time, you will see that it will help you and improve your ability to have conversations, whether that's in the workplace, whether you're in a doctor's office, or whether you're just chatting with friends. And the most magical part that I learned is I think we can all think about a moment in time where we lost track of what we were talking about. Your brain freezes, your mind locks up. It could be in a work meeting, but it could be when you're in an argument, but you get to a certain point where you've just lost it all. And this exciting episode is going to give you some really interesting tips for when that happens. So with that, let's get into improv.
Now, for this episode, we decided to bring in a friend of mine who's an improv player, which is what they're called. They're called players, right? Not actors. So she's an improv player. She's based in London, and I've done a little work with this lady. Her name is Liz Peters, and she's an author of a book, which we'll tell you about a little bit later on. But here's our session on improv with Liz. First of all, thanks so much, Liz, for coming. It's a real pleasure to have you here and to introduce Carrie, really, to the world of improv. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
So, yeah, sure. I started out as a performer, so I've been a professional performer for over 20 years now. And then around about 12 or 13 years ago, I took my first proper improv class. And for me, that really felt like a bit of a light bulb moment for me, because I was like, oh, I had enjoyed my life as an actress and all that sort of thing, but I had very little creative control. It was quite sort of puppety kind of experience. And then I took an improv class, and my head just went, I love this. And because you could be the director as well as the creator and the player and all these things. And so that was about 12 or 13 years ago. And then my career just gradually sort of shifted into improv being much more of a key part of that. So I perform around the world, or I certainly was doing before the last couple of years. And then I use improvisation and what I've learned from that, and I use that as a training tool with like leadership training companies and people who just want to do it for fun and for confidence. And I mean, people want to do improv for so many reasons. So that's what I do.
So people will obviously know improv from the whole, Whose Line Is It Anyway, and that type of a show.
Yes, that's definitely what I think of when you say improv.
Yeah. Can you tell us just a little background in terms of who started it? I know there's the big Chicago, that was kind of like Chicago was the big sort of centre for that.
Well, I think it's
Second City, I think.
Second City, I wouldn't say they started it. I think the improvisation has been happening for years and years and years. And there's way back, there's someone called Viola Spolin who is quite famous for bringing these interactive live games into theatre to try and move things along. And so there's a whole world of it in America. There's a whole, Chicago is a big place for it. Second City, which is what you mentioned, they were using improv to create better sketches. So they were using that as a way of writing a sketch. And there's many other schools over in Chicago as well. And then there's a whole history coming from Europe as well, Keith Johnston and people like that, who many people were using it to make scripted theatre better. And then because what people were finding was that actors were dead behind the eyes. They were doing the role and saying the words, but the aliveness and the spark and the frisson wasn't so much there. So then improvisation games were used to G that along a little bit, and then people started to go, oh, actually, it in itself is quite funny. It doesn't just have to be a process to get to a scripted piece. And then improvisation as a theatrical art form started to take off, and Whose Line Is It Anyway? Probably the most famous because it's been on the telly.
And certainly the comedy aspects of it. So the improv comedy is obviously huge, and we on the other podcast we do are at the legendary Hollywood Improv on Melrose. When you said your mind went like that, can you articulate what that means in terms of what was the aha feeling and what thoughts accompanied that?
The aha feeling. So I suppose it was many things really. For me, as a performer, as a creator of art, I was like, whoa! I didn't know it could feel this alive, and I didn't know that we could have that. I was going to use the word frisson again because I'm struggling to find a better one. So that, as a performer, I really enjoyed that, and then also the philosophy of how it could work for you off stage as well. I think that was for me a real noticing, because
so that was an immediate, because that was going to be one of my questions, is so you have this aha moment, and then how long was it before you realized, oh my gosh, this should not just be limited to actors, in comedy. This can apply to so many different facets of life. So did you recognize that?
Probably not in that first class, not in that first moment. But as I took a course, and so I was just sort of running and being like, oh my God, I love this so much. This is so brilliant. And then I guess the more I did it, the more I could see how it mirrored real life, and the more I started to look into that and understand it a little bit more. Because obviously everything that we're doing, this conversation is completely improvised. It's true. Everything that. You go and buy your soup from the shop, and that's improvised. So it's a reflection of how everything happens coming from you in an improv scene. Everything's only coming from your ideas, your experience, your thoughts. And also that's the same in real life. So you can see how you behave in one context, because it's coming from you, is also how you behave in another context.
Yeah. I think
so is that where the title of the book comes from? It's coming from you, own it, sort of, in a way.
Oh, I wish it was. I think that's nice. I think, yeah, I guess own it just more is that kind of like having that, taking the space and being like, own it, owning this moment, owning the room was more. But actually, I like the addition of the coming from inside.
And I think for me, that's that's why we wanted to get you to come and speak to us, because of that life skill. There is the notion of, if you become attached to the form in our life, I have to have this car, I have to have this partner, I have to have these children, I have to look like this. That's a route to madness, because you will never quite achieve what you set out to do. And having a more of a yes and more of an improv philosophy in life allows things into your space that you may not plan for, and then you can get rid of those things, just like you can with an idea and an offer when you're doing improv. And it's, for me, it's such a powerful connection between the technique and the fun and the communication tool of improv and yes and the other tenets. But moreover, for me, it's more about the yes anding my whole life. I think it's important.
When I think about yes and the way that I relate to it, for me, it is a way of, we talk about our inner chatter, right? We're always talking to ourselves all day long. I think they say that 80% of the time, it really is sort of just this inner chatter that is going on in your head, and 20% of our time in a day might be where we're actually conscious. So for me, yes and is a way for me to remember that the way we talk to ourselves is so much more harsh than the way that I would ever talk to you or to you. So for example, I woke up in the middle of the night because I guess because my clock is all off because I'm here in London with Steve this week. And my first thought was, I've been gone away from my daughter for a really long time, and I don't know if that was the right choice, and she might really be missing me, and I was having a feeling of guilt. And then I said to myself, yes, and you're having a vacation and doing some work, and these are amazing experiences, and she's learning a sense of independence, and she's having quality time with her father, and everything's all good.
Yeah.
So let's go back to sleep. So I sort of try to use it as a way to speak to myself in a kind way.
Yeah, and I think that so much of our way of being is to negate what comes before. So, I mean, we'll touch in a moment, I think, on what are the tenets of, and what are the sort of the foundations of improv. In fact, let's just do that now, because it just seems to be the best.
But I think you were just about to say that the natural instinct is to block and resist. Right? Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's definitely, it's almost like a safety mechanism. Is to immediately resist the unknown or the unfamiliar or the uncertain, because it's much safer to protect ourselves and be like, well, no, I will barrier up, because who knows what saying yes to this will lead to.
And what's so interesting about the timing of this too, obviously we're still really, we're not quite sure what the future holds. In the UK, we're about to have a Freedom Day, which is going to be great.
A couple days away.
Yeah. So, but it's, I think again, philosophically, I think a lot more people are going through that process of saying, what is the future look like? Because it's going to be different, because the past is not going to be the same.
Yeah.
So can I take an approach of yes-anding a bit more as I move forward into this new whatever normal looks like?
Yeah. And I think everyone had to had to yes and the reality of the pandemic. It's like everything changed so much, and it will change again. And certainly for my business, when the pandemic came along, and it's like, how I can't, the initial safety reaction is, I can't do my job in this climate. I can't do human interaction, connection. I'm in a room with people, I'm feeling people. Immediate first reaction. And then it's like, okay, yes, breathe, yes, this is happening, and how can we accept this reality and move forward within it and see what transpires in that way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So thinking back to what, looking at improv as a school of performance and attitudinally and philosophically, what are the sort of key, when you teach improv, what are the key sort of lessons you want to get across with people? What are the key tenets?
So the first thing that I will always want to give people a sense of is that it's okay to fail, that it's okay to make mistakes and to mess up, because we're making everything up. You cannot expect everything to be right and good and perfect. It just won't be. Yeah. And so perfectionism is the death of trying to improvise. And so failing big, failing gloriously, that'd be the first thing I would say to people.
I think I want that on a t-shirt. I am failing.
Let's have
gloriously.
tattoos. Let's have tattoos.
Let's do that after this.
Yeah, let's do it.
The next thing is listening. That's the key. That's a really, really key one. Is to not be inside your own head. This is a really collaborative art form, and if I'm improvising with you and I'm just in my own head thinking, then I'm improvising with you. So is to really giving your attention, your presence, your focus to that other person, and allowing that to be more important than the stuff that's in your head.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think that's we all know people who are, we've got friends all who are delightful, but they can't wait to just get in, they can't wait to get in and tell their bit. Well, I'll tell you what I did. That reminds me of my situation.
I think I did that to you at dinner last night.
You could have. I have barely any memory of what we talked about last night.
You tried to talk a couple of times, and I kept interrupting, and you said, well, I actually am going to tell you if you'll close your mouth and let me finish.
I didn't say it as rudely as that. I don't think I said it as rudely as that. I think I did it a lot more elegantly.
I'm sure it was
I'd
elegant.
like to think.
I just can't. It's fuzzy.
Yeah.
But we don't live. Listening is hard. A lot of people don't do it. I think the desire to interrupt and to handle the conversation, I think that comes a lot from fear.
Yeah.
It's like if I am just listening and being in response to what you have, I don't have any control over where this is going.
Yeah.
So I'm slightly less safe.
Yeah.
Than if I was to go, okay, the things I know about are dogs and cheese, so let's talk about that, and then I'll make sure that I'm in an area that I'm comfortable.
Right.
So I do think the jumping in and the controlling of conversation can often be a fear response.
I also think listening to the emotion in people's voice too, and their physical state is a big indicator, because we don't always say what we mean. So being able to tune in and have that acuity to be able to go, right, they're saying this, they're not quite meaning it.
Yes.
And my American friends tend not to get a lot of that. So you do. You're very good at that, but irony and sarcasm and stuff like that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd love it if you were being
Cultural
sarcastic
thing.
when you said that and she didn't get it. But I don't know, he wasn't. That would have been quite ironic.
No, but that does happen, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
I'll have to say, are you being sarcastic right now?
Yeah. So listening.
Listening, yeah. Failing, yes, and we've talked about this already a little bit, but just to explain what that is accepting the reality that is presented and building something on it. So embracing it as is, and not just embracing, but the and part is the key part as well. So I can be like yes, but not give anything to this interaction. So the and part, adding something, and then together we build something together with your bricks and my bricks.
Right. So the time's come for us to do a few exercises, and then what we might do on the live stream is do a couple of fun exercises when we do our live stream. Get some people doing some fun improv.
Absolutely. I think that'll make for a really fun way for us all to work on this together.
Yeah. Okay. So Liz.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Let's do some improv.
Yeah.
Take us on a ride. I'm with you.
I've got your back.
Let's go. You're with us. Let's go.
All right. So just any improv exercise.
A few simple
simple
fun
ones.
to get particularly to get over the yes and some of the other things that we've been talking about. What best exemplifies? I mean, I think whichever best exemplifies the things we've been talking about.
Okay, so we're going to do an exercise that's inspired by the yes and thing.
Okay.
And this is called I know, okay? And it's basically yes anding your partner, making them 100% right and building on that. So you're, in this scenario, you are old friends,
Yeah.
you are, but you're going to remember a fictional memory that you have together.
Okay.
It's not a real one. So one of you is going to start with, hey, remember the time when, I don't know, we went to Vegas, something fictional. And the other person says, I know. And then they add a little bit to that memory. So, I know, when you put all your money on black. And then you go back to the first person and they say, I know. And they add a little bit to that. So we keep going between the two of you.
Okay.
And the I know, the job of the I know is to say it with enthusiasm, and it also it forces you to keep going. So it lets you fall into speaking.
Yeah.
Okay. So starting with I know.
Starting with
hey,
remember
placing
the
the
time.
story.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
All
it's just
right.
sentences and sentences.
So I'll start. Is
Yeah.
that okay with
Yeah,
you?
of course.
All right. Steve, do you remember the time that you were visiting me in Los Angeles and it was a wonderful sunny day? So I decided to take you for a drive down PCH and we went to the beach.
I know. And then we met that homeless guy who was playing the banjo.
He was playing...
Say, I know.
Oh.
Yeah. No, that's all right.
I know. He was playing the banjo and he had fabulous Rasta hair. And you started to engage with him, and we were close, standing there, and I was feeling a little bit scared.
I know. And then you immediately turned around and walked off and left me with him for the whole afternoon.
And I know. And then, as I was walking back, I was so shocked to see that you had the banjo in your hand and you were strumming along and he was singing with you.
I know. And then like a week later, we had our own CDs that we started to sell on Santa Monica Pier.
I know. And that went so great that I then recommended that you go to the Venice Boardwalk and sell some more.
I know. And then we started our own hobo band and we went on tour all over the United States.
I know. And now you are the only millionaire that I know.
Very good.
I love that the I know game finished with the words
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
That was
Clever.
great.
That was not difficult to do. I mean, as someone who's never done an improv exercise ever before, that was really easy. It was comfortable and it sort of flowed. And I feel like doing I know and then providing a little bit more information is almost easier than saying, I recognize what you're saying and then having to ask a question, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're putting another brick on the stack. Yeah.
Yeah. That was very good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I think that learning when we do these things is to realize how we don't have to do a lot each time. So we can sort of feel like, oh, I've got to put a load of information down and a lot of stuff. But actually, just adding tiny little tweaks each time. I know. And then we met the guy playing the banjo. I know. And then you grabbed his banjo and did a little ting ting. I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can take small steps.
Yeah.
And that's less intimidating than oh my God, I've got to create something massive. It's not. All I have to do is go to your
Brevity really works, right?
Yeah.
You know, just adding little, and then it can go different kind of places.
Yeah.
Right. So that's number one. Well done. You're no longer an improv virgin.
Yes.
Congratulations.
She's
You've
done
got your cherry.
So a different version of that, which is quite a standard one that I would do in in a more businessy context would be the same exercise with yes and, literally saying the words yes and. And I would also sometimes do a yes but version to see what the difference is. I don't know if you want to do
let's try
those
that.
two
Okay.
exercises. So first of all, so it's the same principle. Sorry. We'll start with let's do this, and then it's yes and. So let's just try that one first of all.
Okay.
So make an offer, and everything you say is yes and, but only add a tiny, only a tiny bit. You don't need to add a whole story each time. Okay.
Let's go swimming.
Yes, and I want to make sure we have some proper towels to dry off with.
Yeah, and we could go maybe in the Thames and see what we can see down there.
Yes, and I think if we're going to do that, we'll have to have swim goggles.
Yes, and a really nice matching cap.
Yes, and we might see some fish.
Yes, and we might see some dead bodies floating in there.
Yes, and if that happens, I will feel scared.
Yes, and I will look after you, because I always do.
Yes, and that will make me feel so safe.
Yes, and then after we've been swimming, we could maybe see how many discarded shopping trolleys we can find.
Yes, and if one of them has all four wheels that are working, you could put me inside one of those shopping trolleys.
Yeah, and then we could do a dash down Pall Mall.
Yes, and then the cart might tip over.
Yes, and then we could go into Boots and we could buy some plasters and some quinine.
Yes, and I don't understand what the word plaster means.
I really do. It's a Band-Aid.
For all of our American friends.
Very good.
Great. So there you can see how it feels like where you ended up falling out of shopping trolleys on Pall Mall. Lovely. Just do the same offer again, exactly the same one, but this time is yes but, just to feel a difference.
Let's go swimming.
Yes, but it's cold outside.
Yeah, but we could get wetsuits.
Well, yes, but they're so expensive.
Yeah, we could maybe hire some.
Yes, but then we're spending money on things that, maybe it's not the right investment.
Yeah, but we could maybe shoplift instead.
Yes, but then we might be arrested.
Yeah, but with your good looks, they'd probably let us go. You could charm them.
Yes, but I don't know who we would call to get out of jail.
Yeah, but we can escape.
Great. So you can feel that just the staticness of the story.
I mean, think about when we did the yes and. We did this great adventure where we went swimming in the Thames and we saw fish and dead bodies, and then we rode in shopping trolleys and had so much fun. And in the yes but, we never went anywhere. We never even got into the river.
Yeah. It's a bit like whack-a-mole. I mean, the idea is popping up and we're bashing it on the head and sending it down.
Oh, that
Another
game.
idea, a bit like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Fascinating.
And it's such a friction as well. It can really lead to. I think in this one, the dynamic became Steve's character was desperately trying to make it happen, and there was the resistance, and that can be the dynamic with the yes but, because someone's like, yeah, but we're trying.
Right.
It doesn't go anywhere. Nothing happens.
Yeah. Liz, thanks so much. Have you enjoyed yourself?
I have had so much fun with understanding how you can use improv in different ways in your life, and that it's not just for actors or comedians, that it can be used in conversations with friends, family, at work, wherever it is, and it has been very uplifting and so much fun. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Liz. Can you tell us about your book? Your excellent book, by the way, that I've listened to the audio version, beautifully narrated, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, my book is called Own It, How to Boss Your Fears, Free Your Voice and Inspire the Room. And it's really looking at how you can feel more confident and have more presence and ease when you're in high pressure situations, such as public speaking. So there's a lot framed around public speaking, and using its first half is how do you connect more with yourself so you feel more comfortable. And then the second half is how do you connect and engage with an audience. And I talk a lot about improv in that second part of the book as well.
There's loads more to it than just improv, right? So there's lots of technique, the mental game as well as the physical game, right?
And centering techniques and all ways to make yourself be at your best when you've got to turn it on.
Like when you're doing a podcast. Thank you
Exactly.
so much.
It's my pleasure.
It's fun.
Thank
you for being
having
here.
me.
Well done you, Carrie.
Thank you so much. I think that I probably had more fun recording this episode than any of the other ones that I had done.
Yeah, I was going to say, and this for me is a little bit of a palate cleanser, right? So we've done quite a few episodes which are very self-reflective, and I think they've been really good.
Yes.
This one's a bit of a fun one, right? And a little bit of a
Yes.
palate cleanser, and I think you did an incredible job.
Well, thank you. And so one of my goals will be to really focus every day. I think I'm going to put a sign, I don't know, somewhere, maybe near my computer, because I do a lot of Zoom calls. I am going to build yes and into my everyday
Yeah.
conversation.
And what about failing gloriously as well?
Well, I want to get t-shirts made that say failing gloriously, because going through these exercises made me realize that it doesn't have to be a negative thought, that you can fail gloriously and you can do it in front of people and still turn it into something that makes you human and accessible and special.
Yeah, and and for me, the thing that I loved about that episode is just seeing you have those multiple aha moments of going,
Yes.
this is really easy, you know,
Right.
because of all that fear that you had about, oh, you've got to be, you know, you've got to be a performer, an actor, or a comedian, or whatever it is. You improv all the time. We're
Right.
constantly improving.
Right.
Any conversation we have, we don't know the outcome of it. So we're doing that. And for me, the philosophical thing about yes and, can I yes and my life a little bit more? You know, and do you know,
Right.
honestly, doing the podcast with you is a yes and.
Yes and.
Yeah, completely.
It's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
I had the light bulb moments were other areas in my life other than the podcast where I can use this. So for example, I'm a Girl Scout troop leader for my 10-year-old daughter, and I think I'm going to build a little something in there, a little bit of improv. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. So I think what we might try, how about this, on our live stream that we do this month, maybe we do a couple of improv games.
I think we should absolutely do some improv games, 100%. So after watching the episode, if you know you can attend our next live stream, you'll be getting an email from us. We will be reminding you of the live stream and the topics that we'll be covering. Please feel free to reach out to us at Patreon/Holistic Buffet and send us a quick message. Let us know if you'd like to participate, because we'll be having a lot of fun.
Now, we've got dinner reservations, so we're going to leave pretty soon, but have you got
Right.
time for some dessert before we go out?
Maybe, well, I don't want to eat too much right now because we're going out for a nice dinner, but throw us a little dessert, Steve.
All right, so we seem to have got this into this habit of telling jokes.
Right. This has become our dessert.
Yeah, so I want to tell you a joke.
Okay.
But I do want you to, next episode, that's your job now.
Yeah. Yes.
Tell me a joke.
Yes, and the next episode, I will have to learn a joke because I really never know any, and
Ask
I will.
Olivia, she'll give you.
I'll tell you a
joke.
good joke, but for now, you're going to do one. So take it away.
All right. There's this rabbit, and he walks into a bar, and the barman's behind the bar, and he's sort of cleaning up, and he hears this little voice, "Excuse me," and he looks around, and what's that? "Excuse me," and he looks down, and it's a rabbit, right? The rabbit's looking up at him. He goes, "Excuse me, have you got any carrots?" And the barman says, "Well, no, we've got beers, wines, spirits, peanuts, stuff like that, but no carrots." And the rabbit goes, "No, okay," and then hops out. Anyway, next day, same time, opening time, the guy goes behind the bar, he's cleaning up. Here's this, "Excuse me, is that rabbit?" Again. So he looks down, it's the rabbit. The rabbit goes, "Have you got any carrots?" And the guy said, No, not today, not yesterday, not tomorrow. We got beers, wine, spirits, maybe some crisps and chips and... No, we don't, we still serve carrots. So he goes, "Okay," goes out. Same time the next day, the very next day, the rabbit comes in. And the guy sees him as soon as he can, and he goes, "Right, before you start, if you ask for carrots, I'm going to nail your ears to this bar."
Right.
And the rabbit goes, "All right, mate, no need for that," and hops out. The next day, the guy's cleaning up. He turns around and he sees the rabbit. And he says, "What?" And the rabbit says, "Have you got any nails?" And he went, "No." "Have you got any carrots?"
Well done, you.
We'll see you again for an episode all about...
Self-compassion.
which is going to be a really fascinating subject. So until then, this is Stephen Carey's Holistic Buffet.
A meze for your mind, a banquet for your body, and soup for your soul.
Right,
See you soon.
let's go for dinner.
Let's do it. Bye, guys.